Well, hey, how are you doing? Welcome to the Microfamily Millionaire. And this is a sub-series to our parent podcast, Share the Wealth Show. And this is actually where I'm going to be sharing tips, resources, insights, and lessons learned from my journey to becoming a millionaire through microfamily real estate. So today, guys, I'm just gonna let the cat out the bag. This is not a great time in the market cycle, and we are experiencing some really tough issues with leasing and getting vacancies filled, right? And so this is something that you may hear of when you are looking at other multifamily investors, or you just hear about it randomly, and you might not know of anybody going through it. Maybe you don't know enough people actually investing in her own multifamily properties. But my market, and it's throwing me off, but not like was expecting it. I'm in the groups that have been talking about what's going on. So I have my ear to the ground, right? I have my ear on the pulse of what's happening in the economy and the market. But I mistakenly assumed that small multifamily, like microfamily, was semi immune to the issues that the big boys were having with their 40, 50, 60, 100, 200 unit complexes, right? If I have a vacancy, it's only a few units. It's not going to really be that hard to find somebody for a couple units, right? That was kind of my thought process when I heard some of my like mentors and people in my other masterminds talking about building waiting lists and making sure you're pushing and going out there, and that 2023 was the year of operations, right? I thought, my property managers, they're great. Like they have their system for operating the properties already. They have the system for lease ups. They have their standards for who they accept as tenants. And my partner and I agree with those standards. So I don't think there's much we're going to be good because I'm in a good market that has high demand, right? Everybody's investing there. All the investors are coming over and buying up all the properties in this particular market. So I know there's a lot of demand, especially after COVID. Maybe I was riding on that wave because a lot of people were moving away from the big cities like New York and Pennsylvania, so because they could work remotely from a cheaper cost of living type of area, right? And that is the kind of market that I was investing in. Not because I planned or knew, or I did actually buy my first one the year after COVID, at the end of the year, in the first year of COVID. So, but it wasn't, I was already looking in that market. I had already picked that market before COVID hit. So the whole work from home scenario wasn't really a thing at that point. But in any case, we purchased a really good performing asset in actually one of the better. My market is made up of three main cities, and then there's a lot of suburbs, around, and the counties are huge. But the almost the best performing, highest rental cost city is where we purchased our other asset that is now having significant issues. So when we purchased it, it was just running along, humming along smoothly. And our plan was always to not push rents aggressively and to kind of just let it operate and let it just ride along, and basically offer the renewals with slight rent increases that are like normal in market, not with like the crazy increases that were happening during the COVID times. And to just repair things as they came up and just kind of slowly like let it go. And then as somebody didn't want to renew, then we would go ahead and renovate that unit and push it to where market rent should be, because these units were highly under market, but the property was still cash flowing, right? And what happened is not part of the plan. And sometimes things happen in, not sometimes, a lot, most times things happen in multifamily that are not part of the plan, right? But it's how do you pivot and address those? So we'll get to that. Not part of the plan. Three separate tenants ended up vacating around the same time, within the 1 to 2 months of each other. And this was the spring of early Q1, end of Q1, early Q2 of 2023, actually. And so now this is a 5-unit building. We have 3 units vacant. Ugh, right? And my partner and I also don't have all the capital to pay for the renovations all at one time, because we were the very first estimate we got for the 1 unit was like a 30K estimate to turn the 1 unit. It was bad. If you saw the pictures, it was really bad. But yeah, we were gonna have to pay 30K for 1 unit to get fixed, let alone we were waiting for the estimates to come in for the other 2 units. So my brain was already working into, how am I getting the capital with rates the way they are? I have equity in some of my other buildings, but I'm not able to access it because rates are just too absurd. And like, I visited refinancing a few different times with a few different brokers, and everything I was getting quoted was just, it was stealing all of the cash flow that I had from the building. And so I definitely didn't want to do that. And so we ended up, because we had a good relationship with our lender, he had a product where we ended up just taking a second mortgage, instead of refinancing the entire loan, because we had a good rate from pre-rate increases from the Fed. So we didn't want to touch the first mortgage. So we just got a second mortgage with just a little bit of a cushion in the amount of the repair costs that we had from all 3 units, which ended up, after everything, ended up being 40K for all 3 units. So not as bad as what we were originally expecting with the 30K from the 1 unit. The rest didn't come out, when everything kind of dust kind of settled, came out okay. So 40K for 3 units. We took a second mortgage from the property because that it had increased in value. So we're able to take that second mortgage, use that second mortgage to pay for the rehab repairs on those 3 units. Okay, good. Took a while for us to get on the rehab schedule. Took a while to close the loan and pay the construction costs off. All that was fine. Like, we got interest from somebody super early who was being funded by, I guess, a nonprofit, like a church was funding or was paying for that the tenants rent for, I guess, the first few years. We were still looking into the details of how that would work, if there were any responsibilities on the tenant, what would make the church stop paying for the tenant. We just wanted to make sure we had all those details in line. So, but I really loved the idea of being able to rent to someone who was in need of assistance. I do that for some of my other properties, right? That, for whatever reason, they ended up falling through and they didn't come with us. We did get one other tenant in, and now but we got them in like a month or two after finishing rehab, and we are still vacant on 2 units, and our reserves are slowly dwindling, right? And this is, maybe, what month is this? This is October. So it's probably like 3, 4 months after rehab has been completed, and we still have 2 vacancies. And I had a conversation with my partner, who had just talked to our property manager. And honestly, my partner has more units in the same market than us, than we share. And he said he has 6 units vacant out of his portfolio in that market. And he said, with his conversation with the property management company, is that we basically, across the market, there are a decrease in applications. The rental applications are down, and then rental applications for good tenants are down. Let me correct that. Good tenants are down. Ones that are and I say good tenants by saying qualified tenants, like normal rental qualifications. Those applications are way down. People are just not moving, or not looking to move into my market, or just staying where they are currently. So lease ups overall across the market are down. And so what is our strategy to try to not lure, but offer value, right? And get people into the door. So now we're talking about concessions, right? And this is something you always hear about in market cycles, where you see if there's like an oversupply or there's a recession, then you start hearing, or you see on rental listings, like, you get half off your first month of rent, or you get a free flat screen TV, or all these other things and amenities that you could add and give to somebody that would get them into the door. And actually, as an owner, I now understand. And like a flat screen TV sounds like, oh my God, they would give you a whole free TV. But a flat screen TV nowadays is like a few $100s. And if that's a one-time fee, but you get that rent continuously, and then all the rent increases after that are based off of the original rent, right? Then that's a small sacrifice to pay in order to get a good tenant into the door. Or what we're doing now, we are offering, I believe, half of the first month's rent off, but we're just putting in our listings, ask about our concessions. And we're not saying exactly what it is because we want people to call in. So these are the kinds of things that you will notice in rental application or rental listings. If you start looking at rental listings in certain markets, you can see what stage of the market multifamily is in by seeing what other investors and buildings are doing. So that's a great way when you're looking at a market just to kind of test the waters. Because if everything is hot and they're flying off the roofs, you're going to see really high rental rates. But when it's kind of slower and people are having issues getting good applicants in the door, and guess what? If you start seeing concessions popping up in rental listing agreements, you're going to know. And then take a survey, like look through a few. How many, if you look at 10 listings, how many of those have a concession in it? Right? Or mention some kind of concession. That's going to tell you what's happening in the market. And everyone knows real estate is super hyper local. So just because there's concessions happening in this market over here doesn't mean there's concessions happening in this market over there. So if you are trying to decide between markets, you need to look not just at what's happening today, but looking long term, right? But knowing if you see concessions in a market and you can buy a property at a lower rental rate than what the competitors who are offering concessions are offering for, and you can still cash flow, right? Then that may be the prime opportunity for you to get in at a lower purchase price, keep your lower rents in place and not even touch them. And then you have people coming to you already because you are rented at a lower rate than some of the other higher end or higher rental areas or rental buildings are offering. So when rents start to increase and the market kind of stabilizes, now you have a huge delta. And so it's all about the long game and how much can you wait and can you delay your gratification to grab your equity in like 2 or 3 years instead of trying to rush it in 1 year, right? So that's just a lesson for you looking for your properties now and looking in particular markets to see what's happening as far as what kind of concessions are being offered in listings in your market or in the market that you're looking at. And right now, so we are looking at concessions. And then also I've talked to my property manager about me jumping in and helping out with lease ups and reaching out to rental subsidy types of nonprofit organizations that help with rental assistance so that we can establish relationships with them and get people who need a rental voucher and they can live in the property, right? And that's not something that I'm against. I've always been for that because, like I said, I do have rental voucher tenants in one of my other properties. So me being able to expand that initiative would be awesome. And the thing is, that other property, I'm still getting my income every month. Even like my rental, I don't have any vacancy because I have tenants who came from a shelter, right? And so if you're helping and you're giving back, but now you're getting paid consistently when there's a downturn, I think another option when you are looking for properties, especially if you're trying to do lease ups in a recessionary type of period, is partner with the government and get Section 8, get whatever the vouchers are, VA housing or whatever kind of nonprofits you can discover or find out in your market that offer housing assistance. Start building relationships with them and talking to them and what's the need and where are they looking to house people, because then maybe you can come up with a solution that helps you and helps them, right? And helps the tenants, right? So it's all a long game and it's all looking at strategy, but I just wanted to share what's actually happening with my rental portfolio right now, at least with one of the buildings that I have. Glad the other two buildings are running smoothly and just chugging along. So they were able to absorb a little bit of the down with this building. We just happened to have vacancies right in the time frame when there weren't a lot of lease ups, and that's been a lesson. I mean, you can't predict or the market. You don't have a crystal ball. No one can know what's going to happen in a particular time frame. You can have an idea and kind of hedge yourself for that, but this is all just a warning for you out there to be prepared and to go into a market cycle and a physical market location with your eyes wide open.